In the year 2125, Earth is a world recovering from the excesses of the past, particularly the silent epidemic that once swept across its population with a substance as common as it was lethal: sugar. The once bustling cities of the early 21st century are now green utopias, their populations thriving on diets derived from the knowledge and painful lessons of their ancestors. The story begins in New Eden, a city that epitomizes the harmony between technology and nature. Dr. Elara Miles, a nutritional anthropologist, walks through the holographic archives of the city's Nutrition History Museum, where the pivotal role of sugar in shaping modern society is displayed. As she passes through the virtual exhibits, the tale of sugar's rise unfolds. Once beloved and ubiquitous in every household, sugar was more than just a sweetener. It was an empire, a cultural cornerstone, a hidden hand steering the progress of societies. From the spice routes of the ancient world to the vast sugarcane plantations that fueled economies and enslaved populations, sugar's sweet taste had a bitter legacy. Dr. Miles stops at an exhibit displaying the early 2000s, where the global consumption of sugar had reached unprecedented heights. Interactive graphs and old advertisements float in mid-air, showing sugar as the darling of the masses, an innocent pleasure in children's snacks, essential in daily coffee, celebrated in desserts, and cunningly hidden in almost every processed food. However, as Dr. Miles narrates to a group of young students, the story was far murkier. Scientific studies from that era began to link sugar not just with tooth decay and obesity, but with more sinister afflictions such as diabetes, heart disease, and even some forms of cancer. Yet these studies were often discredited or suppressed, buried under the sweet promises of a multi-billion-dollar sugar industry. As the exhibit leads into the 2020s, a pivotal moment in the saga of sugar is revealed through the work of investigative journalists and relentless scientists. One name stands out: Gary Taubes, whose groundbreaking book, The Case Against Sugar, had once sent shockwaves through society. Dr. Miles presents a hologram of Taubes, narrating excerpts from his book. He spoke of how sugar was not just a dietary ingredient, but a cultural addiction, masterfully manipulated by those who profited from its consumption. The audience is captivated by tales of hidden research, influenced health guidelines, and the deceit that kept sugar in its exalted position despite mounting evidence against it. With the seeds of doubt planted, Dr. Miles leads the visitors into the next section, themed around the resistance movements that sprang up. She tells the stories of grassroots campaigns, enlightened doctors, and rogue scientists who began to piece together the evidence and push back against the sugar lobby. These movements started small, with educational programs, documentaries, and books that spread the hidden truths about sugar. Over time, they grew into a formidable force, influencing policy changes and transforming public perception. Sugar, once a sign of prosperity and joy, became a symbol of deceit and danger. As the first part of our story closes, Dr. Miles stands before a display titled The Turning Point. Here, visitors see a world on the brink of change. The late 2020s represented a critical juncture where public health initiatives began taking root, advocating for reduced sugar consumption and transparent food labeling. The chapter ends with Dr. Miles posing a question to her audience and to us: what will you choose to consume, knowing what you now know? As the lights dim, the air thick with anticipation, and the weight of choices yet to be made, the story pauses, inviting listeners to reflect on the impact of sugar not just on their health, but on the fabric of society itself. The scene reopens in New Eden's Nutrition History Museum, with Dr. Alara Miles guiding her audience into the most transformative phase of the sugar saga. This chapter of the story dives deep into the revelations unearthed by Gary Taubes in his pivotal work, The Case Against Sugar. As the group gathers around a virtual library, Dr. Miles begins to narrate the compelling findings of Taubes. He had meticulously documented how sugar is not merely a source of empty calories, but a fundamental driver of chronic diseases and metabolic disorders. His research pointed out how fructose, a component of sugar, is metabolized by the liver, contributing to insulin resistance and fat accumulation. Dr. Miles explains the biochemical underpinnings that make sugar so addictive. Taubes had argued that sugar stimulates the same pleasure centers in the brain as drugs, leading to a vicious cycle of cravings and consumption. This addictive quality of sugar, hidden behind its sweet taste, was its most dangerous attribute, making voluntary control nearly impossible for many. Interactive displays around the room light up, showing brain scans and biochemical pathways, making the complex science accessible and engaging. The audience is visibly moved, understanding the insidious nature of sugar and its grip on the human brain. The next exhibit exposes the sugar industry's tactics to influence scientific research and public health policies. Dr. Miles narrates how companies funded studies that downplayed the risks of sugar while highlighting the dangers of fats, skewing public health initiatives for decades. Documents and emails replicated in the exhibit reveal communications between sugar executives and prominent researchers, showing payments and promises that secured favorable findings. The audience learns of the infamous Sugar Research Foundation, which orchestrated scientific reviews to absolve sugar of its links to heart disease. As the story approaches the present, Dr. Miles discusses the global awakening to the dangers of sugar, fueled by the relentless work of advocates for truth, like Taubes. New policies were implemented: taxes on sugary drinks, stricter labeling laws, and education campaigns designed to wean populations off their sweet dependence. A large interactive map shows the decline in sugar consumption worldwide and the corresponding improvement in public health metrics. Countries that led the charge in reducing sugar intake show marked decreases in obesity, diabetes, and heart disease rates. In the final chapter of our story, Dr. Miles invites her audience to imagine a future where sugar is no longer a staple, but a treat used sparingly and knowingly. New Eden and cities like it represent this new world. Here, food is designed to nourish and sustain, not to addict or deceive. She talks about the innovation in natural sweeteners, advances in food technology that deliver flavor without health costs, and a new cultural shift towards whole, unprocessed foods. As the tour concludes, Dr. Miles leaves her audience with a choice, echoing her earlier question. With the knowledge of sugar's dark side, how will they choose to live their lives? Will they be the architects of their health or passive victims of hidden influences? The museum dims to a close, leaving visitors in a reflective silence, pondering the sweet deceptions of the past and their power to shape a healthier future. In this story of the case against sugar, we are not just passive listeners, but active participants, empowered by knowledge to create a world where the bitter truth about sugar no longer hides behind its sweet facade. As we step out of the virtual world of New Eden, we carry with us the lessons of the past, ready to forge a better path for the generations to come. Enjoyed our story today? Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and share this video with friends who would love it too. Your support helps us bring more inspiring stories to life. Subscribe for more lessons and tales each week, and hit the bell icon to never miss out on our adventures in learning. Thank you for watching, and let's continue to build a better future together.